Welcome to the 24th floor. I'm Richard Denson.
And, of course, I'm Ruben Diaz. I mean, I don't even have to say that.
Oh.
All right, if you think high-level basketball in Memphis stops after high school or college, you might want to take another look.
Every Sunday, some of the top women's talent in the city is still competing and building something that's been growing year after year. We went to check out the She Got Game League. Shout out to our producer, Sydney Jones, for tipping us off about it. It didn't take long to see this is some real competition.
All right, so joining us now is the CEO and founder of She Got Game, Celia Newman. Celia, appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so educate us all. What is the She Got Game League?
So the She Got Game League is a semi-pro women's basketball league. We are currently in 6 cities, major cities, Memphis, Dallas, Denver, Houston, Little Rock, and Nashville. We play year-round, 2 seasons a year, and these women can really play at a high level.
He knows. He saw it firsthand.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was out there this past weekend. The level of play stood out. What do you think people don't realize about this league?
A lot of people still don't know it's here. We're going into our 12th season, so we've been doing this 7 years now. And a lot of people still don't know that it is here in Memphis and come out and watch the games.
And the home base is here in Memphis. Like everything originated here in the 901. It's not like you was somewhere else and then you came and expanded to Memphis. Everything started in the 901.
Everything was here. 2019 is when we started.
So who's in the league? Like because that would kind of be the question, right? Like people go watch people they know, people they're familiar with, people maybe they saw in high school or college.
Well, the ones that started with me, I retired them last year. Ashley Shields was probably the most notable name. She played in the WNBA, WNBA champion. But we had a lot of players that started with us our first season that were high talent WNBA Division I players. We put them in our first ever Hall of Fame last year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, and when you look at this league, how legit is this compared to what people might expect? Because like you say, you talk about Ashley Shields. Our boss was telling me a bunch of stories about her earlier this week and how much of a legend she is. So it's almost kind of in a way you kind of have a who's who. You look at who I talked to this past weekend with you, Amy McNear, the head coach of Memphis East. You know, so it's like a who's who in this league. Tell me a little bit about all of that.
Yeah, I mean, these players were big at their high schools, and some of them are now high school coaches. We cater to the women that didn't have anywhere else to play but still can play at a high level, and they just want an opportunity to continue to play after college, and that's the platform that we give them now.
Well, the crazy thing is there's a ton of men's leagues, right? There's semi-pro men's leagues. There's just men's leagues all over the place. But I coach women's basketball, young women's basketball, I should say. And I can tell you there's not a ton of places for women to just go hoop.
It is not. It is not.
And so what you're doing, what you're providing is a whole outlet that really, an avenue that needs to be provided.
Exactly. Because these women, you know, they're moms, wives, and they can just still play.
Yeah.
I mean, they did their 4 years in college, and maybe they didn't make it to the WNBA, but they're still playing at a high level, and that's kind of giving this platform that they can still play.
Up until this upcoming season, they were probably going to make more money in their regular job than in the WNBA. So that's not really a knock anymore. It's like, hey, you were making more money anyway. But so right now, when you look at this league, talk about the growth. How do you feel about the growth of the league?
I love the growth of this league. In 7 years, we've expanded to multiple cities. We've sent over 12 women overseas for contracts. So the exposure's there. We live stream every game, and agents reach out. So it's always an opportunity to continue to play, even past She Got Game. You can get an opportunity to play overseas with this league.
Now let's talk a little bit more about that. So you have the league here in Memphis, and you have the league across in the other cities. From what I understand, the champion of each league has a winner-take-all tournament. How is that all like? And that's still here in Memphis, right?
Yep. So that's our grand championship. So after everyone's season is done, in July they'll come to Memphis and we do the grand championship. A couple years ago we had Lethal Shooter, Red Bull, and Jasmine Carson came out. So it was a really big deal, and we gave away a $1,000 cash prize.
Lethal Shooter as the I Understand It guy.
Yes, he was here 2 years ago.
Are you a better shooter than him, Ruben?
Well,
he was here. Yeah.
I'm a better disher than he is, probably. I promise you that. So, when is that grand championship?
It's usually the last weekend in July. So once everyone's season done, we usually start promoting it late June.
Okay. that's something people can go watch, right? Where is it normally held at?
It's
I know it might
normally at
change from year to
Mam,
year,
but we're probably having it at Craigmont as well.
Craigmont? Okay.
And that seems to be where all the games have been this year. So I was very interested about that when I came this past weekend. One thing that I noticed is the vibe there. It's almost like threw me back into the high school basketball season. Like I come out, people in the parking lot having a good time and almost like, you know, having food and everything like that. Then I go inside, it's a bunch of food and people just, it kind of feels like a chill activity. Tell me kind of how intentional that was for that to kind of like be a safe space?
I wanted Sundays to be a family fun environment. Like you can come, you can eat, we have games, we have giveaways, and you can enjoy good women's basketball. So I really wanted to intentionally form that kind of environment for fans so you can feel welcome and you can enjoy yourself while you're here and get to watch some good basketball. How
was that getting Craigmont to get on board with being the place that y'all were going to do this?
The high school coach, she's familiar with She Got Game, and she was just adamant about us bringing it to their high school.
Okay.
And it's a, you know, basketball-bred high school. You know, a lot of legends came from there. Latoya Bullard is one, and so we were excited to play in that gym as well.
Has it been challenging, though, to get the word out to the public about the league and to get them to support it maybe in the way that they need to for you to continue to grow it?
Yes, it has.
so
it seems like this year everyone's finally kind of hearing about it. I mean, we've been silently under the radar for 7 years now, and just this year has been, everybody's been reaching out and finally hearing about the league, so it's been great.
So what can people do, to grow the exposure for the league? Like, what can we do to help?
Well, you're helping me promoting the league. Just following us on Instagram and Facebook, She Got Game League. Coming to the game, that's the big thing. Just come and watch a game, and I promise you'll enjoy it and you'll want to come back.
What do younger girls see when they come and watch this? Because I notice you see a lot of kids in the crowd, and then I remember when I was shooting camera, you had kids dribbling balls around me and everything. What do you want younger girls to see when they watch this?
I want them to see role models. We also have junior She Got Game, so that's for elementary girls. So the She Got Game players coach in the junior She Got Game. So it's just a revolving door of constantly putting effort into these young girls. And I want them to, once they graduate from college, come back and play in She Got Game. So we're touching them from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade.
When's your next event? Do you have another game coming up soon, or maybe some type of a clinic or anything that people wanted to get involved?
So we have games every Sunday until June the 7th. And then once we get through with the season, we host camps for girls as well in the summer. So just kind of making sure you stay in tune with us, and we always have things for girls to be a part of.
Sounds like you got a lot going on.
Yeah, and in fact, you got Legends Night coming up. Yay. I know this is a good spot that we get you in. What is Legends Night, and why should people come out to that?
So Legends Night is an idea I came up with last year. I wanted to honor Memphis women's basketball players. There's a lot of talent here.
Yeah.
They were playing at a high level back in the 50s. And so last year I went back and I started with the 1950s. I honored Betty Booker and Linda Street. So it was just an idea to give them their flowers and their recognition. So this year we're honoring 18 women. And then I have 3 She Got Game players going into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a nice event on Saturday.
Oh, that's a lot. And have you been able to watch much high school basketball or college basketball in this area? I know you're busy running a league, so it can be different.
I've went to several games because some of our middle school and high school girls played in the junior She Got Game. So I did go out and support, and there's so much talent.
Yeah.
So much talent. You know, now we got a new head coach with Hannah Hayden, so.
Didn't she show up not too long ago?
She did.
Okay,
She came out and supported, and she's recruiting for Memphis, so I'm excited about seeing that talent on the floor here.
Yeah, she's good people. Has been good. I've known her since she was a JUCO coach in like Coffeyville or something. You know, she's been around for a hot minute, and I think she's going to do great things at Memphis personally. Just people love her, you know, and she's a people person, and she's a great coach. So I think she's going to have a lot of success. What's the website, the information? This is your time to now we've said don't talk to the camera, but now you can talk to the camera. Tell the people how to get a hold of you.
You can reach us at SheGotGameLeague.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at SheGotGameLeague, and come to a game. If you want to be a sponsor or partner with us, please reach out to us at any of those socials. We will be lucky and happy to partner with anyone that wants to see this league grow and expand.
Yes, we definitely want to see the league grow. Because I have fun. I mean, I love basketball. Ruben and I, we debate all the time about basketball. We're going to debate basketball later on in the show. But I just love watching basketball, period, whether it's men's, women's, girls, boys, high school, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So She Got Game, I had a lot of fun.
It's not really a debate, though, when I win every time. A debate is a back and forth, right? You know, a debate is a back and forth, and you point and counterpoint. It's not a debate when I'm just dominating the conversation. You know what I'm saying? So,
I need to see this one-on-one.
Ask him who his favorite team is in anything.
Who's your favorite?
In what?
Women's basketball team.
In WBA or college? Ooh, it was OU for a little bit there because I had a player playing at OU, and I'm not gonna say UConn because I'm not an Geno fan. So I would say I watch. I don't know. It's hard for me to say because I don't like the bandwagon.
He is,
I don't
though.
like the bandwagon.
You see what I'm saying? I just tried to
I
have you
love
put him on
Dawn.
the spot.
I think Dawn does an amazing job. So I love Coach Yo. I'm a big fan of Coach Yo. So I'm probably a bigger fan of Ole Miss than any other team just because I'm a big fan of Coach Yo. But when you have what he doesn't understand is when you have players who've played across, when I've coached kids you can't just have a favorite team.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
You can still, like, he's from Houston,
support 'em all.
Texas. He should easily just be a Houston fan across the board.
I was a Houston Oilers fan my whole life.
As I told you, I'm from Atlanta. I'm Atlanta across the board.
I was a
Falcons,
Houston.
Hawks,
Well,
Braves.
no, you were an Ole Miss fan this year.
Yeah, in college football.
Okay, well,
but I still rock with Georgia Tech.
Come on
Did
now.
I not say that?
Come on
every
now.
time we had Stephen Orr, I said I still rock with Georgia Tech.
Don't nobody
But
rock
I'm
with Georgia
Oklahoma
Tech.
State too because that's where I went. So I support.
So now, which one are you really then?
When it comes to what?
I'm just playing. See what I do here? I'm like an
You know what I'm
instigator. I
saying?
just rile it all up,
Yeah, I was
get him all flustered, and then
But
that's how I
anyway,
win.
support the She Got Game League.
Before She Got Game.
Miss Celia, we appreciate your time.
Thank y'all.
Check out Legends Night this weekend.
Yep.
You know, it's going to be a fun time. Check out Craigmont. It's such a historical building, and you'll see a lot of people you know at this She Got Game League.
Thank you for what you're doing for all those women as well, giving them that avenue, that place to play, that home to play, and a place for young girls and young women to see the future and to see that they can still continue to play well after college. So
Thank you.
great job.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to transition talking about Memphis Tigers football. We'll be back after this. All right, welcome back. It seems every week we talk about Memphis Tigers athletics. Last week we talked about basketball. Let's bring things back to football because spring football just concluded.
Yeah, spring football is probably one of the more exciting times of the football season, especially if you're a bad team. But luckily, Memphis isn't a bad team.
But Mother Nature put a damper on things, just like y'all's just been doing in the Mid-South.
It's still fun, though, because you get to watch your team, especially in this portal era, where you get to watch these unknowns become a part of your team that maybe you didn't really realize before.
Yeah.
So I think I've always been a big lover of spring football.
I do, and like I said, Mother Nature putting a damper on things. As we know, in the Mid-South, it's been a lot of raining lately, and so Mother Nature put a damper on the spring football fest that was supposed to happen at the University of Memphis. But our guy who is our inside man, he's a friend of the program. We haven't had him on in a while in a perfect way. Welcome back to the program. He is the head man of the commercial appeal for the Memphis Tigers football, Mr. Jonah Dillon. Welcome back.
Wow, that's quite a introduction. I don't know if I deserve it. Now I got a lot to live up to.
So one thing, Jonah, you'll learn is that Denson is all about the introductions. So to the point that I've decided that when I die, he's going to MC my funeral.
I watch a lot
Just
of
based on
WWE.
introductions.
I watched a lot of wrestling
Wow.
growing up, so
That's high praise right there. I mean, yeah.
So Jonah, we haven't had a chance to get an eye on the Memphis Tigers football as much as you have, and so kind of just like fill us in on what we've missed. Who's QB1? Just the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, well, spring practice is always kind of unique. It depends on the place that you're covering, obviously, in terms of the access and stuff. And most of the stuff that we got to see was, stretching or that version, that kind of thing. And like you said, obviously, they're supposed to have a spring fest, which was sort of an open practice that was going to be at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. And it had to get canceled because of the weather. And so they just did a regular practice that day and concluded spring on that day anyways. But it meant that the fans and everyone else didn't get to see kind of the whole practice and the whole team out there. So hopefully they'll be able to obviously reschedule that for some time in the summer. And really, a lot of the spring was getting to know all the new faces, right? Because there's so many new players. The majority of this team, the vast majority of the contributors are going to be transfers. Not necessarily surprising. That's what happens when a coach leaves. Players often leave too. They leave regardless, basically. And so that means there's a lot of new players at almost every position, very few returners, and even fewer returning players who are expected to play significant roles. So for me, it was kind of just, learning new numbers, putting them to faces, and trying to figure out who's going to play a role for this team.
So does that make it, that is a difference in this era of college football, because back in the day, you would have a freshman, that you'd be like, all right, I'm ready to see this guy's growth in this year's spring, practice and spring game. And when you've got all these new players, like you said, right now you're trying to figure out who's who. Yeah. Does that make it more difficult to figure out what this team might look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for us and for the coaches too, right? Because you recruited all these players, and a lot of them, because of the way recruitment goes in the transfer portal, I mean, you've got a couple days to look at film and decide if you want a guy to come, but you don't know what he looks like in person. You don't know how he's going to fit into a system until you actually see him in practice. And so you get out there for spring, and part of it for the coaches is just let's just see what this guy can do in these types of different environments and these situations that obviously you're trying to put yourself in when you get towards the season. And so I think spring practice is almost like a reset for the team and what do we have? And then as you look towards the summer, you can start to build depth charts and specific roles and things like that.
A couple of weeks ago, I had on Terry Davis, and we talked about Memphis Tigers football, and I asked him what the vibe was, and he said the vibes are vibing. So now I got to ask you, what do you think the vibe is so far under Charles Huff? I know he's brought in guys. He's brought Jimbo in. He's brought Charlie Strong in. There's been reports about a kind of Navy SEALs not listening to music. What is your takeaway of all of that?
I think the vibes are good. I think ultimately, and even Charles Huff said this, people are excited about Charles Huff. They're excited about the energy that he brings. They're excited about what he's doing in recruiting. They're excited about the transfers that he brought in. But ultimately, he's 0-0, right? He hasn't played a game yet. And so it's good to have excitement around the program. It does matter because you're trying to drive fan interest. You're trying to get people excited. You're trying to get national attention. You want to put yourself on the radar. But at the same time, you get to the season and none of that really matters. And so, yes, it's good right now. And I feel like people are really excited about not only this team, but kind of the direction of the program. But then you get to week 0 when they play UNLV, and then all that stuff kind of goes out the window, and it's just about winning football games.
What do you think about the difference? And some of it's going to be hard because you're right now, again, you're just trying to learn everybody's trying to learn everybody's faces and names. Yeah. But as far as like what this team looks like from a schematic, or, are they going to be grounded pound? Are they going to be, air raid compared to what you've seen in the past with when Coach Silverfield was there, just kind of what you've seen in the differences?
Yeah, it's going to be different on both sides of the ball. Starting with the offense, Kevin Decker is the new offensive coordinator, and he's going to bring a pretty widespread scheme and a really quick kind of scheme, similar to if you watch Tennessee, a Josh Heupel offense, Alex Golish at USF, and now at Auburn, obviously. So if you think about those Memphis, South Florida games where it felt like they snap the ball, the play ends, and they're snapping the ball again 5 seconds, 10 seconds later, you're going to see that version of offense from Memphis this year. So it is going to be a lot different than what you saw when Tim Cramsey was the offensive coordinator. It means a lot of fast stuff, and it means potentially you score really quickly, but also you have some of those possessions where you get the ball back and maybe you go 3 and out and 20 seconds went off the clock, and you're wondering, your defense is tired. On the other side of the ball, you're going to see a 4-2-5 system from Lance Guidry, different than the Jordan Hankins system from the past couple of years, which was more of a 3-3-5. It means 4 down rushers, and it means hopefully more pressure on the quarterback. And then obviously really important at those linebacker positions and at the nickel corner spot. Yeah,
that 4-2-5, I tell my son all the time, you see 2 linebackers, that's nickel. Get ready every time.
See, that's one thing I can't do. I don't know how to read defensive coverages. Even in playing Madden, I have no clue. I'm all ask coach. Whatever call, I always hit the X button and be like, or the square button, just ask the coach whatever we're going to run defensively. But we talk about defensively. Charles Huff, what do you think? What is you think kind of the expectations of him? Well, obviously on both sides of the ball. I talked about it with Terry. Memphis, for the most part, has been a run-and-gun football team where everything is through the trenches. Do you think that kind of stays the same with Charles Huff, especially with his background that he kind of helped, build up a guy like Saquon Barkley when Saquon Barkley was in college? Or do you think with the quarterback that he brought in, or the quarterbacks that he's brought in, that he probably transitions Memphis to throw the ball a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously you go back to what I was saying about the offense, Kevin Decker, that scheme is designed to go really fast and to spread the defense out, really. And so I don't think you're going to see a lot of pounding the ball up the middle. Obviously, if you're near the goal line, you're going to come in with different personnel, but you're going to see a lot of spread stuff. Charles Huff has said pretty consistently, I mean, with receivers, he wants speed and he wants to go down the field quickly. So you're going to see that type of an offense, and it's going to be different, like I said, than what you've seen the past couple of years. Defensively, I do think the trenches are going to be important. Obviously, they're important on any team, but you're looking for a way to create an advantage against the defense, and really on both sides of the ball. And I think that's what they're going to try to do with this new scheme.
I tell you what, if you're going to go that fast, you better have some depth on the defensive line for sure, because those guys are going to get tired. Because you're going to play a lot more defense than you're going to play offense in that type of system for sure, Jonah. And so, what has there been a transfer portal guy who has stood out to you so far? Somebody that's came in that you've said, okay, this guy, he's going to be a difference maker.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the nickel spot, right? And so that spot is going to be Ian Foster, most likely, who came from Southern Miss. And that spot in this defense and the way this scheme is going to be is really important because you need a really versatile player who can do multiple things. And Ian Foster is a playmaker in the defensive backfield in the best sense of the word. You look at the stuff he did at Southern Miss, 99-yard interception return for a touchdown. He was a dynamic kick returner when he was at Marshall. And someone who can make plays really from anywhere in the defensive backfield. And then that nickel spot is super important because you're going to be moving around the field. You're going to have to play different types of roles. You're going to have to cover for other people. And there's a couple guys, especially from Southern Miss on the defensive side of the ball, who are going to play big roles. But I think he might be the X factor in terms of the defense and how everything comes together.
Now, I know this is still very early in the process, but I like to always ask these questions at different points. As of today, what do you think are the expectations for the Tigers football team? And do you think that this team is capable of winning the American title?
Yeah, expectations are a really good question. It's really tough to say with kind of where the conference is and where other teams are. Are they capable? Absolutely. I think you can sit here right now and probably it'll be the same when we get closer to the season. You can sit here and convince me that Memphis should be the favorite to win this conference, and I think it's totally valid. You could also sit here and say, I don't think Memphis should be in the top 3 or 4. And you got plenty of reasons to think that as well, because there's so many new things, there's so many unknowns. The thing is, when you look around the conference, you can do that with basically every other team. There's a ton of unknowns with every team that's expected to be at the top of the conference. And so it's really about who do you trust more in terms of these new coaches, these new quarterbacks at a lot of these places, and how everything comes together. It's going to be really interesting when we get closer to the season to see how that kind of formulates in terms of, do most people fall on one side of it? Do you think South Florida is the team that people look at? Is it Tulane? Is it Memphis? You could really make a case for probably 5 or 6 different teams at this point in the offseason.
There's so much. The American Conference may have had the most change in it from top to bottom, from coaches to personnel and staff. So much change in the conference. I think you're 100% right. Jonah, how would you even know who's going to be good right now? Because there's just so much change. I mean, it won't be till the first couple of times when we see everybody play that we say, okay, well, this looks like it's a good fit, or this looks like it didn't work, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of these teams, again, you kind of go down the list of who was really good in the conference the past couple of years. Tulane had a lot of success. They brought in Will Hall as their new coach, and there's a ton of questions about that because Will Hall is the one who went 1-11 and got fired at Southern Miss, and that led to Charles Huff getting the job there, right? So, and this is his first head coaching job since then. South Florida is a really interesting one. Obviously, we know about the investment they've had, not really just in their football program, but in their athletic department as a whole. Brian Hartline is someone who has a huge pedigree as an assistant. Obviously, look at all the first-round wide receivers at Ohio State, but he's never been a head coach before. And so you got to temper your expectations in that context. You look at the other programs, North Texas, new coach, ECU, same coach, but they lost both their coordinators and they lost basically all their top players. Same, Navy lost a senior class that was so dominant for them for a couple of years. They're going to have to rebuild with a lot of new players, and obviously they can't use the transfer portal to do that. So you look at all these teams and you can kind of poke holes in everyone. And that includes Memphis, by the way. It's not that Memphis is ahead of them. But at the same time, you've got to pick one of them, right? If you're going to make a pick to win the conference. And I think a lot of people are going to look at it and say, Memphis has the least questions.
Well, the question that everybody's always wanted to know, and it's the most important one, who's the quarterback?
Yeah, who's QB1?
So as of right now, I mean, I don't think Huff is officially named his QB1, but who do you think has the inside track and what should we know about him?
Yeah, so obviously you have this competition, which is really between Marcus Stokes and Aaron Nolan. Marcus Stokes coming from West Florida, Aaron Nolan coming from South Carolina. Both former high-ranked recruits, different paths. Marcus Stokes went to the Division II level. Obviously, after his offers went away, he was going to go to Florida originally. Goes to Division II, plays a lot and plays really well. for his last year, and then Aaron Noland goes to Ohio State, doesn't play, goes to South Carolina, doesn't play, and ultimately decides to come to Memphis. And so both talented quarterbacks, both with the pedigree in terms of what they did in high school and what people thought of them coming out. I think Marcus Stokes, because of the experience, that always gives him an edge. We talk about it with quarterbacks all the time. If you have experience, you're always going to have an edge. That's one of the reasons why Brandon Lewis walked in here last year and had an edge right away in the quarterback competition. He had so much experience. I know it's kind of a trick because at the same time, everyone says you need experience, but obviously everybody has to start for the first time somewhere, right?
Yep.
So you got to get the experience. But when you go into a competition, one person has the experience, even if it's at the Division II level, versus somebody else who doesn't have any real game experience, especially not starter experience, that's going to give Marcus Stokes the advantage. Like you said, the quarterback competition is not done. It's going to go into the summer, and both guys are going to have opportunities to win it. But I think that's where it stands right now.
You just brought up a very interesting and valid point, Jonah, because I've said this a couple of times in a couple of different situations. These guys who move, like an Aaron Noland, but he's not the only one. It happens every year. These guys who move from spot to spot to spot, hoping to finally get their chance. At some point, you wonder if they shouldn't just drop down a level, get the experience, because now that guy's 2 years removed from playing significant football, right? And so whether it's more natural talent or not, you're 1,000% correct. That experience matters tremendously. Seeing defenses in real time in game situations, whether it's at the Division I or Division II level, is still an experience that makes a difference. And I hate to see when a guy, like if Nolan doesn't get the job, right, and Stokes does get the job, then that's a third year of him watching football, potentially developing, but not really on the field. So that'll be a tough situation for sure. Sometimes
that's the way how the cookie crumbles, though.
It's tough. I mean, and Jody, you've been able to be around them more and see some of this in real time. So, as you say, that competition is neck and neck, and it's going to go through. Stokes, obviously, they were both highly recruited out of high school, and Stokes does have that experience. What's your take on maybe what Nolan would have to do to be able to get on the field ahead of Stokes? Because Stokes does have the experience nudge ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes out of consistency in practice. Obviously, that's what they do. One of the things that Charles Huff said at the end of spring practice that I thought was interesting was when he goes into the summer, he's going to evaluate all the stuff they do before they even start practice. He's going to evaluate who has people over at their apartments for barbecues, who's watching extra film with their teammates and stuff like that. I don't know if their cooking is part of it. That could be a huge competition to see who gets to be the quarterback. But, those types of things in terms of team camaraderie, right? Because when we go back to what we were talking about before, a team of all new transfers, that means there's no chemistry between guys, right? And so the quarterback is the most important position on the field. It's the most important leadership position. That means you got to bring all these guys together. And so these next couple months, they're not going to be practicing, but this is their chance to kind of grow as a team and build that chemistry. And it all starts with the quarterback. And so part of the evaluation is how do they do in that context? How do they do with their teammates being leaders and how they do that? And it's interesting because just kind of getting to talk to both guys, they both are very different personality-wise and have different leadership styles. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how that develops also over the next couple months.
A lot of questions regarding the Memphis Tigers football, but our guy, Jonah Dillon, has a lot of the answers. He does a great job. He's just the workhorse over there at the Commercial Appeal. Jonah, we appreciate having you back on the program. Thank you for joining us again, my friend.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, big dog.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to go from Memphis to Ole Miss. We'll be right back on the 24th floor. All right, welcome back. Let's transition and talking to things about Ole Miss football. We've talked a lot about spring football lately, but what just happened recently, Ruben?
The old NFL draft.
Yes, and it was a lot of Ole Miss Rebels represented. How about it?
But that's a shock.
On both sides of the ball, too. Normally it's defense.
That's not really shocking. When a team has that kind of success and puts up the kind of numbers that they put, those players get put on the forefront. It helps.
It does, but coming out of the draft, in regards to Ole Miss, everything, as we just talked about, it revolves around the quarterback, and the quarterback wasn't even in the draft. So, to have this discussion, as always, with anything regarding Ole Miss, you can't talk about Ole Miss without this guy. He is the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, which you can catch right here on 24 Plus YouTube and anywhere you stream your podcast. We had him in studio last time, but he's right back in the comfort of his man cave. Welcome again to the program, as always, Mr. Stephen Willis. Let's get it going.
How we doing, gentlemen?
Man, we're good. It's been stormy over here these last few days, so now we're getting back to some sunshine. What about yourself?
Oh, we're getting down here where it's going to rain every day this summer, but we haven't quite got to that point yet. So right now we're just enjoying the sunshine.
Yeah.
Speaking of enjoying, did you enjoy the NFL draft?
I did. I think people were caught off guard that the number 3 team in the country only had 2 players selected. And the reality of that situation is all of their great NFL players are coming back. Mm-hmm. You've got a top 3 team and you only had 2 players drafted. The rest of the SEC should be very afraid.
Yeah, and still, Stephen, coming out of that, a lot of what people were talking about is Trinidad Chambliss, and he wasn't even in the draft. And I saw a tweet, and I sent it to you. They said Trinidad Chambliss might have been the biggest loser of the draft, and they're saying that because Ty Simpson went 13 to the Rams, and they're saying, wait a minute, Trinidad's better than him. So that should have been Trinidad's spot. So, Stephen, what is your take? Because you know what I've said on this program. So reiterate, what is your take coming out of the draft? Would Trinidad have gotten drafted at that spot? Do you think if he had declared, he would have been the 13th pick instead of Ty?
Maybe, possibly, but that's not what we're doing here. That's not what we're dealing with. Trinidad wants to stick in the NFL. He wants to be Baker Mayfield. He doesn't want to be Ryan Leaf. He doesn't want to be a flash in the pan where he just gets drafted. He wants to get that second contract because that's the real goal of all of this, to put yourself in the best position to get that second contract. And getting drafted at 13th, that would be great. That would be great. But if he washed out of the NFL within a year or two and ended up in the UFL and doing all of that stuff, he would be viewed as a bust. So what he is doing and what NIL has allowed college players to do is to make money while they develop their game. His quarterback coach is a former NFL guy. He's teaching the NFL stuff that he needs to know at the next level. He actually coached on the same team as Tom Brady. He was there with the GOAT. So Trinidad Chambliss learning from that guy would be just as easy as learning from a quarterback coach of the Jets or something like that. So I don't think the situation is that Trinidad Chambliss is the biggest loser. It might be if your goal is to just be drafted, but that's not what Trinidad Chambliss is trying to do here.
It's such a difference in the draft now compared to what it has been. So in a couple of ways. Number one, guys used to declare because they wanted to go make money, right? I got to get drafted so I can make money. Well, now they're making money in college. So that's that pressure to go right now has kind of gone away. I don't have to go right now. I can still make a few million right here in college. It's not taxed all across the country, and I'm basically king of the hill. So there's that factor. And then the second factor is you don't have nearly as many underclassmen jumping ship as you alluded to earlier. Yeah. So I kind of have the opposite of vision when it comes to Trinidad. I think it's a brilliant business move to stay in and make money, right? I'm going to stay in and make my money, build my draft stock. It was a class that wasn't, people weren't dying to take a bunch of quarterbacks. You knew Fernando was going to go 1, right? Mm-hmm. But then after that, it was kind of like
a relative unknown.
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, well, who's going to be the next big quarterback taken?
But then
so next year will be a better class for him.
Yeah, but then he may not necessarily go as high. I get what both of y'all are saying, and for the most part, I agree. My thing is, when you look at it now that it's played out, Ty Simpson, he's going to the Los Angeles Rams. That's probably one of the best spots you can go. He's going to learn behind Matthew Stafford. He's going to be with one of the best offensive minds in football, period, in Sean McVay. And then he'll have, he has good wide receivers with Puka Nacua, and he has a good crop to when he does get the chance.
He's never going to throw to them. He ain't never going to throw to those guys.
Well, Matthew Stafford, this might be the last run for him.
He just had like an MVP season, like an MVP-style season. And
Ty?
No, Stafford.
Oh, yeah.
So jump in here, Stephen. I'm going to make this quick point. Ty Simpson sat most of his college career, finally got to play. He's going to go to the NFL and sit for probably at least 2 years before he ever really gets to play. So how is he going to be developed? How's he going to be ready when his time is actually called? He's not going to play over Matthew Stafford right now. He's damn sure not over those guys. So I honestly don't think it's a great place if I'm Ty Simpson. It is if you just want to sit back and not really play. Thoughts?
Yeah, and also, remember, Trinidad isn't the biggest guy. He's not going to walk in and be the statuesque quarterback that you see, the big guys that can make a splash. That's the guys that get chances taking on them. Mm-hmm. Trinidad's going to get much less of the benefit of the doubt. So he has to be ready to play the moment he walks into camp, because they're going to be looking, just like they all do, looking for reasons to cut you.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, to you all's point again, I saw a quote from Riley Leonard, good quarterback when he was at Notre Dame, playoff team. He said he made more money in NIL than he does as the third string practice squad. So I get that. You know what I'm saying? It's all about the money. I think of Trinidad's stature, he wouldn't be a third string or practice squad guy. But still, again, like I said, the experience, you want to leave no doubt when he makes it to the league. My biggest thing is I don't want us, like I said, if it's going to go back to the money, it is what it is. I don't want us to get to this point next year and we're looking at the draft and Trinidad's not a first-round pick. And we have a bunch of quarterbacks that are taken ahead of him and we're looking like, dang, he should have went last year when they took Ty. That's my biggest thing. But if it's about the money and it's his bank account, fine. He does whatever he wants. He may not go as high, but he can still look at his bank account and be like, hey, I'm still richer than what I was if I would have went.
And the flash in the pan thing, flash in the pan that happens in college football, remember, Peyton Manning was taken number 1. Tom Brady was taken in the 6th or 7th round. They're both considered the GOATs. Yep. So it's not going to matter where he's picked. It's more important that he sticks and that he gets a year 2 and a year 3.
So to the point about Trinidad and waiting until next year and see, you got to remember, he's only got the one season of SEC football under his belt. So he's still, in theory, one season. Yeah, less than one season. So he still has a lot to prove to NFL. Yeah, his intangibles look great, but you don't have a ton of film of him at that level, right? And so I can totally see why in his camp, and let's all not be shy about this, there's a camp, a strategic camp talking about whether or not he should or shouldn't be going to the NFL draft. There's people in place that are making those grades and measuring that out. So it makes sense to me that his camp would say, hey, if you stick one more year, take your NIL money, improve your draft stock by proving that, hey, you can play at this level even at your height and stature, because you're right, Stephen, measurables matter in the NFL, right? So he takes a year to prove that. Now he doesn't have to worry about being the 13th pick. He's easily a top 10 guy, and there's no doubt about it, his performance. And if for some reason he did drop, at least he'd be better prepared to stick long term.
I guess the thing, leave no doubt.
Yeah, and his Heisman campaign kicked off over the last week or so. He had an interview with Marty Smith of ESPN. Vanity Fair had a Bomani Jones article put out about it. They're getting headlines. He has a chance to be a 1-1 type player in the NFL draft, but he needs the accolades with the Heisman Trophy and all that, and the development. It's not a guarantee. Everybody says it's a foregone conclusion that he's not going to be a high pick next year. He has a chance to be the highest of picks, similar to Baker Mayfield, but he needs to develop his game, and Joe Judge and this offense and all that is going to provide a lot for that.
He'll have some tough competition going up against Arch Manning, Dante Moore, Darian Mensah, but Trinidad's my guy. That's my favorite quarterback in all of college football. I think he's more than capable of it. But, Stephen, we could talk about this forever. Really quickly before we let you go, as always, tell the people what you're working on.
We are working on the end of spring football, getting ready for a transfer portal haul from Chris Beard. They're apparently working, and baseball's now in a dip again. They need to get right before Hoover starts, and you can check it all out on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
As always, like you said, 24-plus YouTube and anywhere you stream your podcast. Stephen, as always, we appreciate your time this week on the 24th floor. We'll catch you next week.
All right. Thank you, bud.
Appreciate you, big dog.
All right, let's take a quick break and let's get to our favorite segment, the best thing we saw with Ezekiel Telemaco. We'll be back after this. All right, it's that time. Welcome to the best thing I saw. It's just going to be a normal occurrence that we have our guy Ezekiel Telemaco on because his takes and everything is just a welcome way to just end the show. You know,
it's always good to be here, and I appreciate the consideration. But we should just start it off right off the top.
Yeah, Zeke. The floor is yours. What's your best thing you saw?
The best thing that I saw, which may be the worst thing for certain families, is the Mike Vrabel and the Diana Rossini madness.
That's the best thing you saw?
In terms of the playlist,
so
not
what
the best
aspect of it? Was it the Spotify thing?
I just couldn't imagine being married and having to go through this specific situation. Like, it's just a very, very tough situation for the family. Honestly, my condolences go to all parties involved, kids, I mean, just like the pile of information that has come out. Especially, I always mention that I'm from Boston every single show, but the amount of information that has come out since this development started, it's just crazy to me. Again, we saw pictures of these people kissing at a bar, and then it somehow turned into, them being a lot more than just acquaintances, and hey, they were with other people.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How is this the best thing you saw?
Zeke has some takes with best thing, just like the tanking thing.
The best thing, the reason why, and again, it's best thing I ever saw. I'm being very sarcastic. I think it's a very sad situation, and I don't mean to turn this into a dark thing. I just think that it's something that we should talk about on the show.
Or a playful thing.
It's something that a lot of people, at least in the market that I'm from, which is Boston, people are just trying to sweep it under the rug. We saw Ime Udoka lose his job because of the same thing, and it's the same exact situation. He took his team to the finals.
It's not the same exact situation.
Very similar.
He was sleeping with somebody on the staff, in the office.
Sure.
And Vrabel is messing with a reporter.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
It's different. He got fired because he was in the company pond, so to speak.
Sure. That's what I've been trying to say.
And Vrabel won't get the same consequences because you can't fire him unless there's a morality clause that they hold him to. They can't fire him for having an affair.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I've been trying to tell you this whole time.
Oh, I just think obviously I know that that person being a Celtics employee is very different than it being a reporter. But I would just say, especially as somebody who's worked in sports journalism, has been to Celtics games, it's just what new information coming out every day. You got the playlist. You got this girl tweeting about looking at her child, talking about the child being named after Mike, right? Which is who she's having an affair with.
But they allude to the fact that the kid could be his.
So essentially, Zeke's best thing is the revelation.
I'm being sarcastic.
The Diana Rossini is over party. That's your best thing.
I'm being very sarcastic when I say this. I think it's a sad situation. I think that it's really going to be tough for the Patriots to move on from that. I don't think they are, because everything was based on his dignity. It was based on him being a culture changer. Even when he was in Tennessee, he was a very hard working coach.
Yeah, it becomes a major distraction for a team that made a nice run last year, and you're really just hoping to build on that. Yes, this becomes a massive distraction. The fact that he wasn't at the NFL draft and all this tells you that they're trying to figure out how to crisis manage this thing. But at the end of the day, in this world today, it's a 24-hour news cycle, 48-hour max, right? So unless something new comes out in the next day or two, eventually it's going to become old news.
Dissipate.
Fair enough, but you don't think that throughout the season teams aren't going to be trolling Mike Vrabel and the Patriots? You don't think that players are going to look at him differently? When you're getting yelled at by a coach talking about you guys need to be disciplined, you don't think people are going to have a second look at him?
Well,
and say,
you're talking about a lot of NFL players who probably do their own level of dirt.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's move on. Ruben, what's your best thing?
Best thing I saw is hats off to the Memphis Tigers basketball team for their newest transfer portal signee.
Luke Almodovar.
Luke Almodovar. If you haven't seen this dude, so you might remember that weeks ago or months ago during college basketball season, the best thing I saw was this dude's dunk. He played at SEMO, Southeast Missouri State. So he played out there, and he had this massive dunk in the game. I was like, man, this dude can really just throw it down. Turns out this dude is now going to be playing for the Memphis Tigers. This guy is athletic. Man, and he is athletic. He doesn't look it.
Indiana guy.
He's from Noblesville, Indiana. Didn't get no love. Then I think he went to Indiana State for a while. Didn't really get much there. And then went to SEMO, and then from SEMO now to Memphis. So I think that is a great pickup for the Memphis Tigers because, if nothing else, he's an electric-style player. And he's got a social media following for what he's been able to do.
So your best thing wasn't Josh Holloway? You're not a big Josh Holloway guy?
I don't really have it. I wasn't there. I didn't see the fight. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't there. I didn't see the fight. So I can't take on that.
For what I'm referencing, as you know, we just moments ago learned that Joshua Holloway from Texas A&M has signed with the Memphis Tigers. Now, what you may not remember This was a guy who got into it with Ja Morant a while ago, where Ja Morant was facing a civil suit because Ja Morant punched this kid.
Allegedly.
Now, when Ja Morant's on the way down, you got somebody like, this is my city now.
So when Ja is up, you know, we can see the writing on the wall that he probably has played his last game as Grizzly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Now this kid comes in and he comes. I mean, he's from here though, right?
Yeah,
so it's not like he's coming from somewhere else.
It's not the same level because he's coming in to play for Memphis.
But a lot of
Tigers,
people
not the
don't
Grizzlies,
want him on the team because Ja still got fans, which I am a Ja fan, but it's like, why?
Fair.
They're going to be in the same arena.
They say that, well, they ain't going to be in the same arena because he's out of the city, but you say that unless they start winning. If they start winning, then, I mean, you know, they might be holding up signs of punching Ja at that point.
Yeah. Well, sticking on the NBA, the best thing I saw, see, we're all about pettiness on this program. My best thing was Jaden McDaniels talking that smack against the Nuggets and then backing it up. And then, you know, in not the most recent game, but what was it, game 4 when they beat the Nuggets? And he could have easily dribbled the ball out, but he laid it up. And
start a big old fight.
Jokic went and let him know about it for sure. Jokic was like, hey, man, so, all right, first off, what do y'all feel about stuff like that? Especially you as a coach. You dribble the ball out.
It's a respect thing. You dribble the ball out. You've already won the game. At the end of a game,
what are you doing if your players lay it up? Are you yelling?
First of all, they ain't doing that. They're not doing that. Nobody who plays for me is going to do that because that's so disrespectful. To me, it really is. You just hold the ball. Let the clock in. The game is over, right? The game is over. So when you do it that way, and like the NBA is a brotherhood, right? Those guys have all played together in some shape, form, or fashion over the years. So it's probably even more personal at that level than it is at like my level that I'm coaching at because those guys know each other like that. And so doesn't shock me at all that Jokic went after him and was trying to, check that chin.
As Jaden being the one after what he said none of these guys are defenders, which I know you got a kick out of that. He said Jokic can't defend, Gordon can't defend, Murray can't defend, and he backed it up. Because, guys like Dylan Brooks will talk that trash, and then Shea will be like, you know what I'm saying?
That post on Instagram was crazy.
But Jaden McDaniels was backing it up to this point now. As we record this, the T-Wolves are up 3-2. 3-2. I'm going to go on record and say the Nuggets are going to come back from down 3-1. And the reason I say that is because no Ant and no DiVincenzo. And the Nuggets now got something, especially because Jaden's been poking the bear. So while it is funny, and that is my best thing I saw, I think the Nuggets will get the last laugh and come back from down 3-1.
Oh, that's a great take. I would say that in terms of intensity, I think that that's something that the game needs more of. I know that you think that it's disrespectful, but in terms
maybe
of
not the fighting. Maybe
not. I like it. I like real beef.
In the playoffs, I think it's valid.
Slamming each other.
We want series to be intense, and that's how rivalries are started, is from fights and more specifically from tension. From moments like that. So I praise him for that. I mean, I think that it's good for the game. I know that from the young kids that are watching, it's probably not the best from a role model standpoint.
I mean, you love that stuff when players were going at it, like the Kurt Rambis getting slammed on the floor. I know you love that stuff.
So, first of all, I'm not that old. Secondly, first of all, the NBA went through a whole process, right, where they had to get rid of all the fighting.
Sure.
Because it became too much of that. And you have young kids now who, when they play overly emotional. And so the last thing the young kids need to see is that fighting is a part of the game. It's not hockey. Fighting in hockey, we don't fight in basketball like that. First of all, basketball players can't fight. It's never a real fight, right? Football players swing. Basketball players hug and throw. But I don't think it's good for the game, the fighting part of it. I think the intensity.
Yes, I agree.
To your point, the intensity of that matchup is great for the game because it gives basketball fans like myself a reason to watch. These two teams are going at it. I love that. I hate a nonchalant game. So I think the intensity of this series is exactly what the NBA needs.
But I think it's kind of like baseball where you need to find that balance where, like, if you look at 2016, 2015, like, if you did a bat flip, you were getting beamed the next at-bat, or somebody else was getting beamed. Now it got to the point where you're seeing Tatis, you're seeing all these guys, and people love to see that, and you're not getting, the game has changed where that's acceptable now.
But so what people don't understand is it's hard for people to understand is when you lower the bar of professionalism, respect, and etiquette, when you lower it at the professional level, then it lowers at every other level even more.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how many times I've been at high school AAU games or high school basketball games or scrimmages for football, and some kid does the humping on the ground dance after they score. Little kids. Little kid, I'm not kidding. I was at my son's little tiny tykes. He's 6 years, he's 5 years, a 6 and under football game. We're watching.
Are they doing the jaw thing with
this team scores, and after he scores, the whole team gets down and starts doing the hump on the ground dance. And that should not be a thing. But it's because we lower the bar of what's acceptable at a professional level, which then lowers it at every level underneath. And so the reality is, I think that some level that I used to tell my oldest son all the time, if you score, act like you've been there before. You should never act like it's your first time to ever do it. What are you celebrating for? You're going to score again, ain't you? You're going to celebrate every time you score? So while I get that the fan interaction and stuff is good, I do enjoy that part of it. I think there does have to be that line where it becomes not disrespectful, so that people can still enjoy it without worrying about it, the long-term effects.
Absolutely. I think there's an art to showboating.
Correct. There's an art to it.
If you look at Noah Lyles, he's probably the worst at it, where this is one of the fastest men in the world.
Yeah.
But when it comes to how he showboats, I forget what quote it was, but I think he said that he was like in the line and he said, hey, like, don't run too fast because I don't feel like running today or something, something like that. And it's just like when you showboat like that, there's a balance, but I don't know what you guys think about that.
Well, I would get into it, Zeke, but they're wrapping us. I was trying to get you to get your tanking time.
Got time today.
In that, but we are running out of time as always. Ezekiel Telemaco joining us for the best thing we saw. We want to thank everybody on the program, from Zeke to having Celia Newman and She Got Game. Be sure to check them out this weekend. Having our guy Jonah back on, Stephen Willis of the Locked On Ole Miss. We always have fun here on the 24th floor.
Have a great rest of your day.
All right.
See ya.